Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all and great to be here. I'm Matthew Iles. I head up NFTs at Sotheby's, and I'm also co-founder and COO at Mojito. I'll get into all that in just a moment, but just wanted to say how exciting it is to be sitting next to Zack and Super Rare and to see really all the energy and creativity surrounding this event and to see you all. So it's great. So, like I mentioned, I'm COO and co-founder at Mojito, which recently spun out of Serotonin, which is the world's largest marketing firm and product studio operating in the crypto space. And what we do is help bring forward Sotheby's Metaverse, which just recently launched, which is their new dedicated NFT marketplace and department. And I'm here to talk about Sotheby's role in the ecosystem. And I thought it would be useful first to just even give you some context about what Sotheby's even is as a business, because you might not know it all. So obviously it's the world's largest auction house, but it's not just limited to art. There's large business lines across fashion and real estate and wine and jewelry, science and pop culture, sports and collectibles. It's not just public auctions, it's also private sales, as well as traditional e-commerce. And what unites all these activities for Sotheby's is the impeccable taste that a global customer base looks to them and relies upon Sotheby's for when it comes to discovering rare and extraordinary non-fungible physical assets, whatever the category might be. And so naturally, as non-fungible digital assets became more and more popular, Sotheby's was prescient to move into the space earlier this year, starting with its first sale in April with PAC. That sale, we put on one of the most well-attended virtual events in our history for our traditional buyers to wrap their head around this whole crazy ecosystem and just what are NFTs. And excited to say that of the $17 million result that we got there, a large portion of that did come from our traditional buyer set. And that's really what we're focused on, is helping to grow this ecosystem with all of you, given our perch as Sotheby's. And so throughout the course of this year, we've gone on to run several more NFT sales, what we call our natively digital curated sale. We did a 101 Bored Ape lot. Any other apes out there? You! As well as the original source code for the World Wide Web, digitally signed by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, all totaling almost $100 million in sales this year. And again, excited to say that roughly half of that has come from our traditional buyer set. And I mentioned most recently we launched Sotheby's Metaverse, which is not just a dedicated marketplace, but a new brand to sit alongside Sotheby's Real Estate, Sotheby's Wine, Sotheby's Fashion, etc. And it's intended to collaborate with all of these departments on how to elevate and conceptualize NFT projects for the world and for customers seeking out these rare and extraordinary goods. And so I'm going to pass it to Zack in just a second, but I thought I'd end by mentioning what we're focused on going forward, given our role and our opportunity, we think, in this ecosystem. And really, it's threefold. We're focused tremendously on onboarding, and that sounds maybe somewhat boring, but it's super important, obviously, if we're going to grow. And it's not just as it relates to onboarding users, which is its own challenge, but it's also about onboarding a 270-year-old highly regulated institution, as is Sotheby's. And so we've done everything from how to accept crypto payments, how to ease as much as possible KYC and AML restrictions, how to even set up users new to this space with wallets and help them be wise owners and collectors of these assets. And we'll continue to do that. So onboarding is a primary focus for us, and I'd love to hear Zack's experience with that as well. I mentioned elevating and conceptualizing NFT projects. It's going to continue to be our role to provide a platform for top artists and creators to not just make a name for themselves, but also for those that, like I mentioned, across our different categories, are interested in being able to express their value in this new way. And so we're going to do some interesting primary offerings next year along those lines. And finally, we're going to continue to innovate along providing or bringing into being more on-chain Web3 mechanics and capabilities on Sotheby's Metaverse so that we can continue to migrate this whole exciting ecosystem into Web3. So that's a little bit about myself and how we're seeing Sotheby's opportunity in this exciting space. And I'm excited to chat with you all after this, hopefully, and excited to get into it with you, Zach.
Thank you, Matthew. What's up, everyone? I'm Zack Yanger. I was the first ever hire at SuperAir back in 2018. Now the Senior Vice President of Business Development and the Art Advisory. SuperAir launched in early 2018 with a vision to really create a new future for digital artists. It was the first time that artist royalties became a thing. We really championed that from the beginning, and 10% royalties were part of the initial launch of SuperAir. And just being on the stage right now is a bit surreal. Like, I was here at the NFT.NYC 2020, and just to give a little context, looking back, so 2020, this was February 2020. That month, SuperAir's total volume of sales was about $130,000 for the month. The average sale price at the time was 1 ETH, which at the time ETH was $200. Going forward to today, this previous month, we just broke our all-time high with 35 million for this month. The average sale price is now over $50,000, and there's, just in the last month, artists earned $1.5 million in royalties alone. And so, at the end of the day, artist royalties is one of the most revolutionary aspects of NFTs and what we're all doing. And I'm really proud that SuperAir has been a big part of that since the beginning. I would love to just chat a little bit about, SuperAir and Sotheby's. I think that since the very beginning, we've all been, wondering back in 2018, 2019, when is Sotheby's and Christie's going to get into this? Are they going to ever get into this? And this year, it finally happened, and it's been very exciting for the space. It's been great for the artists, and for me, rising tide lifts all boats. I've been very excited to see you all enter the space. I think there are some key differences currently between SuperAir and Sotheby's, but I know with the metaverse and you're working towards more of an on-chain approach. But I think that it's really, at the end of the day, some of the key differences is that SuperAir has always been completely non-custodial. And so what that means is that there's literally no middleman. So when there's an artist selling an artwork, any transaction, any sale is just money moving directly from the collector's wallet directly to the artist's wallet without any sort of middleman. Artists on SuperAir can release whatever they want, whenever they want, once they're released. And that's really, at the end of the day, the true power of NFTs is to remove that need for a middleman. For NFTs to really be leveraged to their full value, artists should be able to interact with their collector base straight on. They should receive their payment immediately. That's what happens on SuperAir. That's what happens on chain, is the minute any sale happens, the minute a secondary sale happens, the artists receive their money instantly. And I know that that's likely where Sotheby's is heading. And I'm very excited that that's where the future is heading, because I think that that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. The provenance is the story. And so, I know currently Sotheby's accepts USD and different types of cryptos, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, there's, of course, when you bring any sort of fiat or USD into it, it makes it much easier to onboard collectors and get more people into the space, and I think that that's great. but there's trade-offs. At the end of the day, like if there's a bidding war, let's say, in USD, you could have one of the most epic bidding wars of all time, the most influential people in the world going back to back to back, millions of dollars up. But at the end of the day, all that's actually going to be connected to that token on the blockchain is the final bid and the final collector. And all of those bids are just being tracked like on a front-end website. And what I really think, like with NFTs and the true power of NFTs, is for that provenance to be recorded in that token's history forever. And so I would really love to see the metaverse like head in that direction where all of that provenance is recorded on chain, because at the end of the day, the provenance of an artwork is the value, I think. The story, every previous bid, every previous sale, every previous collector, like that's all part of what in the future is going to really value these NFTs. And so I think that's a big part of what makes Super Rare special. Looking forward, there's been big changes announced in the last couple of months. So Super Rare recently became a DAO. We're very excited about our new launch of our governance token, Rare, which is mainly focused on curation currently, and the launch of spaces, which are going to be independent storefronts on Super Rare, where anybody can essentially create and whitelist whatever artists they want and essentially have their own marketplace within Super Rare. Also, the most recent thing that we launched last week is our custom contracts for artists. And what's really cool about that, so since the beginning, Super Rare has always been one of ones, and we probably will continue to be one of ones into the future, but what's cool about series is that it could still be one of ones, but it can be a series of 100 or 1,000 one of ones. And by giving artists the ability to mint from their own custom contracts, I think it just goes back to the provenance, and in the future, continuing to be able to authenticate these tokens and make sure that 20 years from now, there's going to be trillions of NFTs in existence. And I think that being able to track that provenance all the way back to the inception and be able to see every bidder that ever placed a bid on it, every collector that ever owned it, like that's the true value in the NFT. And so I think that it's exciting times. I'm extremely excited to see Sotheby's and Christie's and the traditional auction houses enter the space. If you would have said that to me when we were here in 2020, I would have laughed. I would have not believed that would be the case just a year and a half later. But here we are, and it's a new future. And for all of the artists out there, this is your time. Take it, run with it, and make the most of it, because this is once in a lifetime stuff.
Yeah, amen. Totally agree with everything that you said, and I think that this idea of the value of utilizing the chain as much as possible, I think is part of the educational mission we all must kind of take on and do. And I think part of it is also just back to this point about onboarding, how we not just, maybe you experience this too, how we also onboard creators into this space. So as you might imagine, we have some of the top creators and artists and producers of valuable items that have been longtime clients of Sotheby's and have sold things through our auction house for years with creative applications and ideas for NFTs, but no idea how to do it. No idea how to do it right. No idea how to ensure, as you mentioned, this like provenance with their piece. They're aware that that's an issue, but they don't actually know how to do it. And so they are looking to us. They're looking to, I'm sure, you and Christie's and others for that. And it's an important role that we play that I think we find a way to kind of ease folks into this space, but totally align with you about the value that on-chain mechanics brings and on-chain data. And I wonder, it was interesting that you mentioned the one-on-one piece, that Super Rare is committed to that, but exploring beyond that. As we move into the just discussion period of this, the number of folks that are coming to us with ideas around larger editions and open editions. And obviously, I think to some degree, whether it's 10K avatar projects that kind of spurred some of that, and the way that a lot of the community sort of model seems to have encouraged a lot of ideas around, well, hey, if it's about secondary royalties, and that is such a business model unlock, so to speak, for creators, then perhaps we should be thinking about a larger collection. Everyone is still unique, but it's part of a community, and the focus after the initial launch isn't just about creating the next one of one, but actually creating ongoing value to being a part of that community. And this kind of almost NFTs are social tokens just in disguise, it almost seems like. I'm curious what your take is on the kind of, whether it's avatars or these kind of collections, collectibles, since Super Rare is coming from this place, from your founding of being much more focused on the one-on-ones. We're exploring and doing activities in both.
Yeah, for sure. I think as Sotheby's and being a traditional auction house, I think you're going to focus at the end of the day wherever the money is, right?
That's a bit cynical, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, but it is in a way true. And so, at the end of the day, PFPs are extremely hot right now. Like I own punks, I own apes. Like I'm a big fan of all of it. And at the end of the day, they're still one-of-one pieces. I personally am not a big fan of multi-edition artworks. That being said, I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are fans, and it's everyone's own choice to make. But when it comes to PFPs, I think that as long as on Super Rare, I think with our custom contract launch, we're going to see a lot of new PFP type projects come, but they're going to be created by artists instead of by a team of developers creating them.
And when it comes to Super Rare reaching or growing the space, I think one of the most notable kind of differences between Sotheby's and Super Rare is Super Rare is clearly crypto native, NFT native, and really an OG, and Sotheby's is traditional. And I think that we all are enjoying seeing how large this conference is relative to what its size was in years past, and as a representation of this ecosystem growing. So I'm curious, how is Super Rare focused on reaching new customers and going kind of beyond? Because it'd be great, I think, also to find ways for Sotheby's and Super Rare to collaborate on such efforts.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big part of what we're focused on right now, is figuring out how to onboard new collectors. Of course, with Super Rare being completely crypto native, there's a bit more of an onboarding process for artists and collectors to learn about Ethereum and to learn about wallets. But at the end of the day, there's a massive payoff for learning that information. Like in order to have NFTs that have true provenance and that have every bid, every sale, every collector attached to them forever, the only way for that to be possible is for it to be completely crypto native. Like if the auctions are happening in fiat, none of those bids are actually attached to the token into the future. And so you, end of the day, have to rely on a third-party website or company to keep that provenance going into the future. But isn't that really what NFTs is all about? That we shouldn't need that. 50 years from now, we should be able to own an NFT and know the day it was created, know the artist that made it, know every single bid that it's ever made. And so I think that it's really about education right now, and that's a big focus for us, doing a lot of webinars and trying to just onboard new collectors. And I took part in a webinar series with Christie's a few months back in a similar sense to kind of help educate on the more crypto native side of things. But one thing I'm interested for you to ask, you mentioned that recently you're seeing a lot of your traditional art collectors coming into the NFT space, and I'd love to hear just a little more about that, just because that's the one thing that we've all for years now been okay, so currently, in my eyes, everyone buying NFTs right now, especially like high value NFTs, we're still all crypto people. Like the people that I see spending big monies on Sotheby's pieces, on Christie's pieces, on Super Rare's pieces, it's all the same collectors, just across different platforms. And I'm really excited to see Sotheby's and Christie's bring in the traditional art collectors. And so I'd love to just like hear a little bit more about that, because I think that that's a big part of like what we're hoping for and what we would love to see happen is to actually bring these collectors over. Just because in like my initial conversations with, like Noah at Christie's and others, like so far it seems like the traditional art collectors are still a little far away from fully getting NFTs.
Definitely. There's still a long way to go, I think. But the shortest answer is contemporary art represents one of, if not the largest business category for Sotheby's in context of everything else I mentioned that we do. And NFTs naturally have grown out of that department. And so you already have contemporary art buyers who, an example is not too long ago, you could not sell a Banksy or any other street art through an auction house. Contemporary art buyers didn't view it as real art. It was graffiti, it was vandalism, the end. But recently, of course, over the last several years, street art and Banksy in particular have become iconic. And in fact, a piece that maybe you're familiar with, that Banksy piece that sold at auction through Sotheby's, where as soon as the hammer came down, there was a paper shredder hidden in the frame. That piece sold for $1 million a few years ago, just came back up for auction. The expected estimate was $8 million, and it ended up selling for roughly $24 million instead. So that is a demonstration of how contemporary art buyers can actually evolve their taste and see something that at first they don't understand and then soon value it for tens of millions of dollars. So I think the exact same thing is already taking place within Sotheby's and the broader traditional contemporary, because let's be honest, the people buying Banksys aren't fuddy-duddy traditional people, right? So this stuff is interesting to those same buyers. It is just taking time for it to I'd say matriculate. There's a number of things that I think tactically will help out. Displays. There's obviously a lot of focus on trying to make this artwork viewable in your home and kind of treat it the same way in a gallery sense. So I think those things are happening. And I think, more broadly, maybe we'll just kind of close on a few other thoughts. But the another area that I think we'll see more traditional buyers coming into this space is through something you mentioned, which is being able to white label some of these capabilities and just further kind of almost open source the capability of becoming a creator, a collector, and a buyer and seller in this ecosystem. And that's a big part of Sotheby's belief as well. Not only as Sotheby's Metaverse, continues to become more Web3 native and on-chain with its capabilities, but also its investment in Mojito. And Mojito is also received investment from CAA, the world's largest talent agency. And our vision is to enable major brands, IP holders, and top creators to create their own marketplaces. And Sotheby's Metaverse is just the first major example of that. And so I think it's through the building of these tools and the onboarding of the creators that we're going to continue to see collectors just demand what they're making, because it's just going to be so damn irresistible.
For sure. Man, I got about 10 seconds left on thing, but I would love to just chat royalties real quick. So Sotheby's Metaverse, what's the plan for royalties there? Artist royalties?
To absolutely honor artist royalties.
Do you have like a percent in mind?
The artist gets to decide their own royalties.
Okay, amazing. And so that's amazing to hear that Sotheby's is moving in that direction. Like that's where the future is, and that's what the artists deserve. And so I think everybody, if you're an artist in the crowd, you should be excited about where everything is heading, because this is not where we were a few years ago.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Zack.
Oh, thank you so much. Isn't this, you guys, again, we love having our panelists up here. How awesome is this? You guys get a chance to be here, be in their grace. I know we're not taking questions up here because we have a super, tight schedule for posting. And one more time, big round of applause.